We are awakening together. This is our weekly gathering we hold online. For more information, visit our website, awakening-together.org. We'd love to see you there.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday. Welcome to our Sunday weekly gathering. We'll start, as we always do, by greeting each other. Dawn, I didn't ask you in advance, but can you play the opening song for us while we greet each other? That'd be great. Thank you, Dawn. First of all, let me say that I'm on my new computer. Yay! So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so, I don't know that all the settings are right and all that. So, Dawn, you tell me if something gets wonky here. Let me do what's on the agenda here, and that is to begin by reading our statement of purpose. We are an assembly of equals, joined in common purpose, awakening to one true self. Within an appearance of many faiths, many cultures, and many symbols, we seek to discern one truth and to rest in its embrace. And then we always highlight a core value. And in doing that, we have 5 core values. And in doing that, we look at which of the core values provides the theme for our talk. And my talk this morning is on surrender. And so I have chosen core value number 1, which is, we trust everyone is led by unique inner guidance to one experience called awakening, which is realization of one true self. We live this value by supporting one another on different paths of awakening. And let's see what we do now. Now I redo the announcements. So let me find those. Okay, so first thing, we want to invite you to join us on Wednesdays. On Wednesdays, we have a full day of amazing programming. In fact, sitting with the speakers and with those listening to the speakers on Wednesdays is like attending a full day retreat. We have several new speakers on Wednesdays and some old timers as well. Our speakers on Wednesdays include Michelle Costa, Andy Epstein, Helen Avery, myself, Ann Blanchard, Rhoda Makelid, Audrey Whitehead, Carla Mayle, Billy Centiris, George Maddox, Hank Hamilton, and Ron Rates. So again, if you haven't done a Wednesday and you get the opportunity to do it, I'm telling you, if you go, you will get that sense of just being in retreat all day. It's just really cool. So please plan on joining us. And for more information about these programs, look on our Sanctuary program schedule under Online Sanctuary on the main menu bar. Oh, Dawn, did I leave you out? I am so sorry. And yours truly, Dawn says, bless your heart, I'm sorry. And Dawn Fernandez with her program called The Deep Embrace. I hope I didn't leave anybody else out. Geez, I'm sorry, Dawn. So for a full list and to make sure that I didn't leave anybody out, look on our Sanctuary program schedule, which is available on our website, awakening-together.org, on our main menu. Okay, next up is I want to talk about our election process. Our election process has 2 components. First, we nominate folks, and the folks who are nominated also get support from the membership. Those who gain 10% of support from the membership or support from 10% of the membership are placed on the election ballot. The election part will be in June, but right now we need you to give your support to the nominees on the ballot. There's 2 days left. To the current nominees. There are 2 days left for this nomination portion of the process. To see who's been nominated and to cast your vote in support of those nominees, please go to our webpage, look on the main menu bar under To Read, and click on Current Nominees for the Member Board of Trustees. There's a Contact Us link there, so after you look at the list, you can decide who you want to lend your support to, and you'll just send us that Contact Us link. Will allow you to send us an email and say, and you get 4 votes. I want to support this one, this one, this one, and this one. So it's that easy. It only takes a second, and we really do need your help. You know, this is a member-driven organization, so it's important that you have input on who is going to be serving on the member board of trustees. And of course, the member board of trustees is the body that works with me in leadership and determines what happens here, what programs go on, and how the forum looks, and how the website looks. And so it's important. It's an important role, and we want your help in helping us determine who will be the next trustees on the member board of trustees. Okay, next up is movie group. We would like to invite you to join us tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 Mountain, for the movie group discussion of Chocolat, starring Johnny Depp and Juliette Binoche. In this movie, a young mother and her daughter arrive in a new town and open a confectioner's shop. As the two newcomers begin to interact with the other villagers, change seems to be in the air. Change and how we react to it is a main theme in the movie, as are the themes of acceptance and forgiveness. The movie teaches us that we shouldn't be closing ourselves off from others because of their differences. Instead, we should be opening our doors to others exactly because they live differently than we do. It's about understanding that everyone has something to bring to the table that's worthwhile. Ron Rates will be facilitating this month's movie discussion group. There's still time to watch it between today's service and the discussion group tonight. So if you haven't seen it already, you can see the movie on iTunes, Amazon, Vudu, YouTube, and you can watch it for free with John Mark Stroud's commentary on his website, onewhowakes.org. And it's a great movie. It's just a lovely movie. And yeah, I think you'll really enjoy it. There's also a play sheet designed to facilitate your contemplation of the movie. You can find that play sheet on our website under Awakening Together News. Look for the post that says "Not too late to watch this month's movie." I also want to invite you to join us for our newest program tonight at 9 p.m. It's called Dissolving the Ego. And in this program, Sharon Sluyter and Michael DeForbes will be sharing from Helen Hamilton's teachings and books. They will be exploring deeply what it means to dissolve the ego and see all as the already aware self. Now, Helen Hamilton was a recent Sat Song guest of ours. So if you want to learn more about her and her teachings, you can look for the Sat Song on our website. Although I will admit I couldn't find the Sat Song link this morning. Dawn, I don't know. Anyway, I don't know if you can link, but if you go to our website, you can type Helen Hamilton in the search bar, and that Sat Song will come up. So again, that new program is tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Mountain, and it's called Dissolving the Ego. Sharon Sluyter and Michael DeForbes will be sharing from Helen Hamilton's teachings and books. Now, the last announcement I want to make is about the fall retreat. And in order to do that, I'm going to attempt to share my screen. And here we go. And I just want to kind of give you a taste of what we're doing for the fall retreat. There's two parts of the fall retreat. One is Keys to the Kingdom retreat. The other is a New Mexico pilgrimage. Regina and I will be leading the pilgrimage. And you can find this by going to retreats and classes, fall retreat and pilgrimage, and then clicking on the itinerary under the New Mexico pilgrimage. And again, I just want to give you a taste of this. On the first day, we'll leave from La Vita, and then we'll be going to Don, can you hear me?
You were breaking up there for a minute. I think it's because you're doing a lot of stuff.
Probably, yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, so it's probably a good indication that I need to slow down because I can feel myself just ramping up. It's just not where I need to be. So on the first day, we'll visit Taos, New Mexico. And here's some pictures from that. On the way there, we'll get to stop by the Shrine of the Stations of the Cross. That's pretty close to us here. Again, this is this community we're going to visit. It is has been continuously inhabited for over 1,000 years. I'm not going to go through every one of these. What I'm going to do is invite you to visit this page, but you can see as I try and scroll slowly that it's just really going to be a cool trip. This Ghost Ranch and the area around the Ghost Ranch was made famous by the artist Georgia O'Keeffe. Again, this page is going to give you an idea of what we're going to be doing. We're going to go to Dar al-Islam Mosque, the first planned Islamic community in the United States. We're going to have a whole day at the hot springs. That should be fun. They've got spa services, so you can get massages and all that good stuff. So that'll be fun. We get to go shopping in the Dallas Plaza. We're going to visit other sanctuaries. We're going to visit Bandelier National Monument. Doesn't this look fun to get to see these these old-time cliff dwellings? I think that's going to be a lot of fun. We get to visit Katwe, which has all of these cool rock formations. We get to go to the Loretto Chapel with its famed supported staircase. And some other, we'll visit the Cathedral Basilica of St. Francis and the Chapel of San Miguel. We get to go to Santa Fe Plaza. And then there's this Juan Light Sanctuary that's really cool. It's a really cool place to just be and meditate. We'll visit that on the way home. So again, why don't you go visit this page? You can see it's got links in there for you to explore on your own. So, oh, thanks, Don. I should have done that video thing myself. Can you let me start it?
You should be fine. I changed the settings, but I'll go ahead and make you co-host.
Well, it said it wouldn't let me, so it said you had to let me. There goes. Thank you. So anyway, a lot of information, but if you want to go there, go to our website, look under retreats and classes, fall retreat. And then, like I say, about halfway down the page, you'll see the link to the itinerary, and then you can just go through each of those spots on your own. But again, it's going to be a lot of fun. So do plan on joining us for the fall retreat. For now, we're planning to go forward with the fall retreat. Hopefully that's the way that will work out. If anything changes, we'll let you know. If you pay any monies to go to the fall retreat and it doesn't go, if we don't have the fall retreat, all of the monies that you've paid to us will be fully refundable, of course. Yeah, and we'll let Don play the song at the end of this as well. Thank you again, Don. So what we're going to do now is have a prayer. And if you'll join me, please. Father, thank you for teaching me and teaching all of us the meaning of surrender. We give gratitude for the gifts that you give, and we realize that these gifts are only recognized as the gifts that they are by surrendering our own interpretation and our own way of seeing and turning to you and asking you to show us what anything and everything means. I'm grateful for this opportunity to share what's on my heart. Please help us all to see what we need to see, hear what we need to hear, and learn to be who we are. Amen. Okay. And now we will have, I got choked up. Now we'll have our reading, and Lynn Castaldo has agreed to read for us this morning. So I will turn this over to Lynn, who's going to read to us from Inner Ramana.
Good morning. This is from the Teachings of Inner Ramana as received by Regina Dawn Akers. And if you want to join me, starts on page 7. The Purpose of Surrender, February 13th, 2009. We are going to learn not to listen to the mind. We are going to learn not to listen to the mind first by listening to another voice with a capital V, which speaks through the mind, but does not speak from mind, for mind, or with mind. This voice can see mind, and it sees all that mind sees when it looks through mind, but it is outside of mind, so it is not confused about reality. This voice speaks through the filter, so its knowledge can be interpreted for those who still listen to and believe the filter, but this voice is not confused by the filter that it uses. This is the purpose of surrender, to be guided by a voice that is not confused when you are still at a place in mind, a level of vibration, where you can be confused or not confused. In this state, the only way to ensure you have not stepped into confusion is to consistently check with the voice that isn't confused and ask it what you are to do now. The question, what am I to do now, is not just a question about activity, although physical guidance is within the realm of guidance given by this voice. The question, what am I to do now, also includes, how am I to see this? How shall I listen? How shall I be now? What am I to hear? What would you have me know? What is my perspective as given by you? How shall I respond? What shall I think? What would you have me see in me that I am not seeing? The question, what am I to do now, is a fully inclusive question in which the one who perceives himself as having a separate body and a separate mind turns that seemingly separate entity over fully and entirely, so that no seeming independence can be said to remain as separate and on its own existence. This is the idea of being fully plugged in and running on the power of another, or one that is greater. But this perception of running on another is only held to as long as the perception of possible independence persists. Once that perception has died, the possibility of perceiving another to surrender to has died also. And the next part is The Purpose of Surrender, Part 2, February 16th, 2009. The mind creates experience that is not real. It is illusion or fantasy, and it is created for the purpose of enjoyment or pleasure. But the mind forgets reality and sees the unreal as real, the fear as a necessary component. The mind is afraid because the unnatural is not natural. The mind has forgotten reality, knows that something is wrong, but it does not know what that is. It projects stories in an effort to give itself a reason for its fear, but it cannot find the answer it seeks because it is looking in the wrong direction. Its fear does not come from its own projections, and so solutions to those projections cannot end the fear. Fear comes simply from not knowing reality. Therefore, the only answer to fear is to let go of what is false and to remember reality as true. Discarding the world is as simple as remembering that it isn't true. This is as simple as living from within instead of from without. One who is forgetting the world takes his cues from within. When observed, he may seem to respond without. He may even seem to respond to his thoughts, which are still without. But this is only if you observe him from without. Without will see without. Within will see within. One who is awakening to truth is also discarding the world, which includes discarding his thoughts about the world. So this one is learning to take all of his cues from within, from beyond the clouds of his thoughts. True perception is a bridge. Guidance is a bridge. To feel that one is awakened or living outside of mind when one is experiencing perception or guidance is an error. To say that one lives outside of mind when one experiences perception is to remain deluded. But to listen to guidance and to say that one is guided by mind outside of mind is not to be deluded. It is merely to describe the experience in words. It is merely to recognize that mind is needed to experience perception, but guidance is the echo of knowledge filtered through mind. One who listens to guidance may be said by others to be awakened, but this one will only say he is realized, because he realizes truth even as he experiences perception. He listens to the knowledge because he knows that one who sees perception cannot truly see, but one who is not attached can be guided. Non-attachment and realization are one. Seeing truth is to be awakened. World-focused thought is always an error. It is attachment. Therefore, it is dreaming or remaining deluded. To help people with world-focused thoughts by providing world-focused solutions is assisting one to dream. Therefore, the awakened one, who has accepted the role of continuing the awakening, will not assist in world-focused concerns by providing world-focused answers. The awakened one will assist world-focused by observing the filter with the one who has a desire to awaken. When one is not world-focused, guidance within the world occurs naturally. Non-attached activity within perception is not a hindrance to awakening. Attached activity is a means of clinging to the dream. So thank you, Jacquelyn, for allowing me to read this, and the mic is yours.
Thank you, Lynn. Lovely. Thank you. Okay, that's a lot, huh? Everything you ever wanted to know about surrender. Really, it's jam-packed there. So let me talk for a moment about what's going on for me with this morning's talk. First of all, you all may recall that I see that picture's fading in and out. I am not happy about that. My new computer. I got distracted again. Sorry. You all may recall that Doreen recently drafted for our membership the 6 inclinations, where we were to pick where we would like to our focus as we proceed to be. And the one that picked me was moment-to-moment guidance. And you know, and like all true lessons, again, the lessons teach themselves to me. And so I had that piece of it. Okay, moment-to-moment guidance. What in the world does that mean? And then Ron mentioned something in the recent True Discernment class that we had about flipping a coin. And I thought that was a great thing. I'm not sure how he introduced it, but when I read it first, I didn't really get this, the importance of the practice, how that practice would be helpful. It seemed like a good thing. You know, it's like discovering guidance. Okay, flipping a coin. And I heard, and I told somebody, and they told somebody. No, I told the gentle healing class about this coin flipping thing, and Rhoda Makelid picked right up on it. She started flipping a coin, and she shared it with Cate Brennan, and Cate shared a couple of Sundays ago her experience of this coin toss thing. And she said, you know, it's not about the results of that. You know, should I do this? Inner wisdom, Holy Spirit, should I do that? It's about learning surrender. And I really heard that. And I began to look at that more deeply. And another thing that came together for me was we had a recent, in General Healing Year 2, Regina wrote an excellent tip on surrender. It's her tip for year 2, day 73. If you want to look at that, it's very, very helpful in regards to learning surrender. And then the final thing that happened for me was I began to read. You know, okay, we're looking at surrender. Where do you go to look at surrender? You go to Inner Ramana. It's got 2 chapters on it. Lynn just read them to us. As I read it this time, and I've read this, as I said the other day when I was looking at it again, I've read this hundreds of times. In fact, a few years back, Tom and I would read Inner Ramana every day. So I'm telling you, I've read this thing hundreds of times. But when I read it the other day, it just struck me differently. So that's how I came to the talk. And I am still flipping the coin. And we'll talk about the significance of that here in a little bit. But so I just want to kind of go through this, and I will tell you that I wrote with inner wisdom on each of these paragraphs. So I don't know if it's best practices to read or not. I don't know how much I'll read. I may read this whole time, but I want to share with you what came from within regarding the teaching of surrender as given by Inner Ramana. So first of all, I'd like to note that, and if you have your Inner Ramana and want to look at it, it might be helpful, but I want to note that it starts, the very first sentence explains the meaning of surrender. We are going to learn not to listen to mind. That's the point. That's the whole point. We're going to learn not to listen to mind, right? We know that listening to mind is always what serves as a block to true understanding. Listening to mind is always what serves as a block to living from a place beyond our interpretation. Mind is the perception creator. So by listening to mind, we stay stuck in the what Regina calls, and it's her, so she ought to be able to call it what she wants, but what Regina calls the loop of experience. I've often referred to it, it's been helpful to me to refer to it as the perceptual loop. What I think I see, what I see I experience, what I experience I think. So again, by listening to mind, we stay stuck in that loop. What I think I see, what I see I experience, and what I experience I think again. And to stay stuck in that loop is to live within suffering. We're living according to our own interpretation, and that's all we ever. When we learn to live beyond our own perception, we free ourselves from that loop. And we do this by turning to another voice or guide to explain to us how to think, how to see, how to experience from any or all of those points in the loop. It allows us to break free from that loop of perception by listening to another voice. This is the point of surrender. We're going to learn not to listen to mine. We're going to listen to another voice. The guide that we listen to is outside of that loop. It's not fooled by the loop. It's not confused by the loop. It's not limited by the limits of the interpretation within that loop. Because we're listening to a guide outside of the loop, that guide can guide us beyond this loop of perception to true perception. Ramana says, this is the purpose of surrender, to be guided by a voice that is not confused when you're still at a place in mind, a level of vibration where you can be confused or not confused. You know, sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't. But if I'm surrendered, I'm led by a guide that can never be confused. Ramana says, in this state, the only way to ensure you have not stepped into confusion is to consistently check with a voice that isn't confused and ask it what you're to do now. So again, the purpose of surrender is to ensure that you don't rely on that same old guide of habitual thinking. Continuing to rely upon thinking keeps you trapped within the, and we might call it the misperceptual loop, right? Confusion is the continued reliance upon the thinking mind to tell you what things mean. I want to read that again. Confusion is the continued reliance upon the thinking mind to tell you what things mean. It's believing the interpretation of the mind, and to use thinking to tell you how to navigate in the world. The thinking mind, as we've seen, only navigates, excuse me. The thinking mind only navigates in a circular pattern. Let me turn that phone down. Surrender allows you to let loose of conditioned interpretation and thus allows for a new way of experiencing the world. So, though we believe it's wise to let the past tell us what current experience means, we're working with a confused mind. We're working with misinterpretation. The confused mind's only way of discerning meaning is to rely upon what it thinks it learned in the past. It's a closed loop. Therefore, by turning over all analysis to one who knows, we free ourselves from both past interpretation and present interpretation. Inner wisdom says, confusion operates when you think any part of the loop or thinking is valid. When I think any of those interpretations that I've learned from the past are valid. Confusion operates when you think any part of the loop or thinking is valid or has value. While you are learning the valuelessness of all things, you cannot be relied upon to make the determination regarding what has value and what has no value. You are as yet unable to distinguish between truth and illusion. By not trying to make the distinction, you are unlearning dependence on the thinking mind, which can never know the distinction in the first place. Mind cannot know that which is beyond mind. Mind can imagine it knows what is beyond mind, but because it is beyond mind, it cannot be known by mind. You might say it can only be known in the heart. You know, we often talk about being in our hearts. And for me, it took a long time to really get what does that mean? You know, I want to be in my heart, and how do you do that? Well, you don't. Being in your heart is being in surrender. Being in your heart is asking to be shown what anything and everything means. Being in your heart is giving up the attempt to apply and live by my own interpretation. Ramana says, the question, what am I to do now, is not just a question about activity, although physical guidance is within the realm of guidance given by this voice. And then we're given this list of questions. The question, what am I to do now, actually includes, so it's not like you got to go through this list of questions, right? But it includes all of these questions. And listen to these questions again. How am I to see this? How shall I listen? How shall I be now? What am I to hear? What would you have me know? What is my perspective as given by you? How shall I respond? What shall I think? What would you have me see in me that I'm not seeing? And I'll tell you, when I looked at this the other day with the group on Wednesday, I realized, oh my God, these are the questions that I have traditionally, habitually, forever asked of my mind. I asked my mind, well, how would you have me see this? How should I listen to this? How should I be now? What do you want me to hear? What would you have me know? What would you have me do? I'm asking these questions of my mind. I'm always asking these questions of, what did you say, mind? Oh, when that happened in the past, that meant, okay, here's what I'm going to do based on what I just found out from mind. So, you know, it's like A Course in Miracles tells us you're always, what does it say? Host to God or hostage to the ego. You're asking somebody this advice all the time, right? So being surrendered means I'm not going to be going back to the mind to ask these questions. I'm going to ask the voice that knows. How am I to see this? How shall I listen? How shall I be now? All of those questions are within the one question, what am I to do now? They're all within the intention, the willingness to surrender and not try to interpret for myself. And that last question, what would you have me see in me that I'm not seeing? It is also an inclusive question. Inner wisdom says that seeks to root out the vestiges of belief that are hiding behind the bald assumption that I have already let go of the thinking mind. You know, the ego's tricky, it's convoluted, and it wants to maintain itself. So this last question, what would you have me see in me that I'm not seeing? Where am I still attempting to maintain control? Where am I still attempting to be in charge? Where am I still actually turning to the thinking mind for interpretation about how to be, what that meant, what I ought to do now? What would you have me see in me that I'm not seeing? Where am I still clinging? Where am I still hanging on? The next part of Inner Ramana, let's see. Says the question, what am I to do now, is a fully inclusive question in which the one who perceives himself as having a separate body and a separate mind turns that seemingly separate entity over fully and entirely, so that no seeming independence can be said to remain as separate in its own existence. I'm not going here. This is the idea of being fully plugged in and running on the power of another or one that is greater. But this is also just a perception. This perception of running on another is held on to only as long as I think that I'm separate. Only as long as the perception of possible independence persists. Once that perception has died, the possibility of perceiving another to surrender to has died also. So inner wisdom says it only seems as if surrender is surrendering to another. This is a necessary result of letting go of the belief in yourself as a separate entity. And this part is really knocked my socks off. This first idea is talked about and was talked about as we studied it in General Healing in Luke. Separation is the law that has ruled the mind. Separation is the fundamental assumption that the thinking mind holds. Let me try again. Separation is the fundamental assumption that the thinking mind holds to as it tries to make sense of its existence. That's where it starts from, the thinking mind. So as it's trying to go, what does that mean? And what does that mean? And, you know, do its interpretation. It's coming from separation. It's believing I am separate from you. I am separate from all things. That's what it starts with. When the guiding questions are asked of the thinking mind, it will always base its answers on this fundamental belief in separation. This is why it keeps you locked within the perceptual or the experiential loop. Only if you believed in separate mind, bodies, and experience would you act and react in the way you do given any particular stimulus. If you truly understood that your experience was generated by your interpretation in a continual loop, if I really got that I was caught in that loop, you would give up the interpretation altogether. I'm just feeding myself what I fed myself before, and it's all misinterpretation. If I got that, I wouldn't go back and go, tell me what that means. I made it up. This is indeed what surrender accomplishes on your behalf. It allows me to quit going back and feeding on that same misperception. Inner wisdom says, thus surrender is not surrender to another, but a swapping out of sanity for insanity, of the belief in separation for the law of love. To try to do this without the idea of surrendering is impossible. I can't get in there and fix it myself. I can't go, oh, here's what love is, so let me do the loving thing. We know that. That's not how it works. I can't determine what the loving thing is. There's mind beyond mind that knows guidance, this voice that we're surrendering to, right? This knows what the loving thing is. This knows how this particular event should be responded to. To try to do this without the idea of surrendering is impossible. For to try to do this without surrender is to continue to rely upon the interpretation and the advice of the thinking mind. Remember, it's a closed loop. So let's look at this part 2 of the purpose of surrender. It says the mind creates experience that is not real. It's illusion or fantasy, and it's created for the purpose of enjoyment or pleasure. But when the mind forgets reality and sees the unreal as real, fear is a necessary component. The mind is afraid because the unnatural is not natural. The mind that has forgotten reality knows that something is wrong, but it doesn't know what it is. It projects stories in an effort to give itself a reason for its fear, but it cannot find the answer it seeks because it's looking in the wrong direction. Its fear does not come from its own projections, so solutions to those projections cannot end the fear. And Ramana says, fear comes simply from not knowing reality. Therefore, the only answer to fear is to let go of what is false and remember reality is true. So the idea here is that the world in which I seem to be separate from you and from everything else, in which beings and things seem to be separate, one from another, was intended to be a lark, an enjoyable pastime. But we know, our mind knows, this world does not reflect truth. And because we realize this at some level, this makes us uneasy in our world. This makes us fearful. We know something's wrong. We don't quite know what it is. That itself is the source of fear. The fear comes first. So then we project that out, and we with stories, we project it out onto others and happenings in the world. All we're trying to do, all mind is trying to do, is to attempt to account for its fear of unknowing. It makes up stories and tries to fix them. This is indeed why the ego can be identified as the problem solver, and we've been talking about that in gentle healing. Oh, here's a problem, let me fix it. Here's a problem, let me fix it. Here's a problem. It's all ego does. Why does ego do that? It's trying to get at it's like, I'm fearful. Let me see if I can figure out why and then fix it. I'm fearful. Let me see if I can figure out why and then fix it. That's all ego does, because it's got this underlying dis-ease with the world because it knows something's not right, but it doesn't know what. So it's always trying to fix it. Ego looks for or invents problems so that it can test each one to see if the fixing of it will resolve the underlying persistent fear of being without knowing what it is that it is. However, because none of its invented problems is the actual source of fear, solving any of them or all of them won't quell that fear. The only solution to the problem of fear is to learn what is real and what is not. And of course, the only way to learn the difference between what is real and what is not is surrender. That's the only way out of that loop. The only way out of of believing and then refeeding myself those interpretations, my misperceptions. The only solution to the problem of fear is to learn what is real and what is not. The only means for doing so is to extract yourself from the loop of fear, perception, projection, or experience. You are given the means of extraction. Surrender to the knowing that exists beyond the thought process that keeps you enslaved to fear. Inner wisdom tells me, I will show you what is real and thus valuable when you give your consistent willingness to ask or to invite surrender by asking, what am I to do now? This is indeed living from within instead of without. This next section I want to look at is it's so funny how I don't know, it's just stuck in that loop of perception. So funny how this had not really been heard by me before. It's this true perception is a bridge, guidance is a bridge. It's like, what? Wait a minute, a bridge? I mean, isn't that the goal? So when I sat with that, when I contemplated that, well, this is what I heard. The truth, as Regina has been teaching us, is beyond perception entirely. So we're looking at true perception is a bridge. The truth, as Regina has been teaching us, is beyond perception entirely. True perception enables us to see how the world responds to the fear that it creates. True perception allows us to see interpretation as interpretation and to understand that there is nothing purely factual about ourselves in the world. And that's where true perception leaves us, at the boundary of the mystery. For surely, if we think we know what we are or what the absolute is, we have applied interpretation to experience. And as we've seen, that misses the mark. I'll tell you that Anne sent me Helen Hamilton, a link to Helen Hamilton's sat song that she did recently, where she talked about exploring that mystery. And she said she realized that when we go in and we ask, what am I? It's that unknowingness with which we're greeted. That, Muji doesn't have the answers. Ramana didn't have the answers. It's living in that mystery. And we've talked about this before. And again, somehow it's just striking me differently now. It's like the unknowing is the answer. What we are is undefinable. It's not something solid that can be pointed to. It's not even something, that some concept that can be described. People talk about the mystery. The mystery is the mystery is the mystery. Let me say another about this. Guidance is a bridge. Guidance is a bridge. Okay. Inner wisdom says guidance is a bridge because it leads us from misperception to true perception. Misperception is reliance on the thinking mind. Guidance is the voice we hear when we willingly surrender our interpretation and ask, what am I to do now? What am I to do now? Guidance is going to lead us from our loop, from our misperception to true perception. True perception is when we know we don't know. True perception is when we're standing on the edge of the mystery. Now that I've got all this stuff out of the way, now I'm ready to explore the truth of what I am, the unanswerable, the truth of what I am. So I can't say that I know. I certainly can't say that I know what lies beyond true perception. What I can say is that I know surrender is the way. Surrender is the way to be led to the boundary, to the edge of the mystery. Surrender and guidance will lead me from my misperception that I live in, that I've been living in for 57 years. Surrender and guidance will lead me to the discovery of the mystery of what we are. And then there's one final thing that, and I know I'm pushing time here, but there's one final thing that I want to follow up with, and that is, it says non-attachment and realization are one. Seeing truth is to be awakened. And I have told the story many times, many folks have told the story many times about this Krishnamurti who had all these students, and so after 20 years of studying or leading this group of students, he said, okay, today I'm going to tell you the secret of awakening. And so they all lean in, and he says, I don't mind what happens. So Eckhart Tolle, telling the story, says, what happens, of course, refers to the suchness of this moment, which always already is as it is. It refers to content, the form that this moment, the only moment there ever is, takes. To be in alignment with what is means to be in relationship of inner non-resistance with what happens. So I asked myself, why would I mind what happens in an illusory world? To mind what happens is to choose interpretation over guidance, insanity over sanity. And so this brings me back to the flipping of the coin. The flipping the coin is in fact the practice of not minding what happens. It's not about getting my way. Woo, oh, I won that time. It's not about that. It's a demonstration. It's a practice of not minding what happens. It's the practice of non-attachment. How could it make any difference? To whom? Surrender is letting go of attachment to what does or doesn't happen. One who is attached cannot be guided. I'm still going on running on my interpretations. Inner Ramana says, world-focused thought is always an error. It is attachment. Therefore, it is dreaming or remaining deluded. So the questions that we might want to ask ourselves is, where am I still listening to the thinking mind? Why am I still listening to the thinking mind? Perhaps I haven't recognized the folly of listening to the thinking mind. Perhaps I haven't realized that to listen to the thinking mind is the antithesis of surrender. Perhaps I have not yet realized the value of guidance. Perhaps I believe I can't hear guidance. We hear guidance, we follow guidance when we understand its value. When we finally hear, it is the way to truth. As Inner Ramana defines it, the echo of knowledge filtered through the mind. Yeah, and then Inner Ramana ends up with a paragraph saying, when one is not world-focused, guidance within the world occurs naturally. So I hope that this has been helpful. It's been very helpful to me. I hope that you find that it's been helpful to you. I am going to, Dawn, I'm going to ask you not to play the song so that people have an opportunity to share. I will ask you all, or remind you guys, that Awakening Together is run by your donations. So if you'll take a moment and make a donation, we would truly appreciate that. And now I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to share. Would anybody like to share about what was said here this morning? And I don't have my screen fixed so I can see people's hands. So
okay, well, I'll just share. This book is my favorite. Over the years, Regina has heard this from me, and I would feel guilty because I started with the course, and I would always come back to this book because the course is beautiful, but it's wordy. And I was like impatient in Awakening, so I was like, all right, come on, what am I? This book told me what I was. Now, I still listen to the mind. I'm still believing. Like this morning, the mind said, you're nauseous. It's your microbiome. And went on and on and on. Then I get on the computer and look about what I can do for it. Instead of stopping, because really nauseous, you know, Eckhart Tolle says in Stillness Speaks, isn't even you. It's just coming through you. I'm not saying that we don't feel that, but as soon as we label anything, we feel it more. So I use the word sensation now to help me from feeding the mind and stopping the mind from going off into poor Sharon, sick Sharon, you know, Sharon, you know, because we don't know anything. And we all know that. How could we know anything when we're not who we thought we were? So, you know, I do love, I've often said I'm a spiritual junkie. I love reading books and I love learning. This is like the best book you'll ever pick up. I one time heard Regina say, this is a book that can get you all the way awakened. And Jacquelyn, your honesty, it's as fresh as it can be. And I am still in the loop. I'm still, you know, yes, I sit and I know what I am, and then I don't care anymore. I go back to the story because I have no idea why. And you know what I have to realize? I don't have to understand a damn thing. That's the whole secret here. It's with not understanding that I think gets us to the place of just silence, or whatever we call it. I don't even know what it looks like. And true perception is still what the Course would say is the real world. So how could I possibly know anything else? You know, we're only imagining anyway. So I want to thank you for reading this book, for using this book, and for being as honest as you could and clear, because I am absolutely still listening to the loop.
thank you, Sharon. I'm getting an echo. Okay. So that takes us to the end of the service. We like to hit a little bit of time. So anyhow, Dawn, I'm going to turn this over to you, and anybody that wants to discuss this further or share their impressions is welcome to stay for our fellowship half hour. Go ahead, Dawn.
Thank you for watching. This was our weekly gathering that we hold online. For more information, you can visit our website at awakening-together.org, or you can subscribe to our Awakening Together channel and click the bell for more notifications when we post our weekly gatherings. Thank you again for watching.